Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Recording in
Yes.
progress.
Can.
It's 10 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is Friday, October 3rd, and we are in Fallon in the Churchill County Commission chambers, and once again, we thank Churchill County for hosting us. Jeff, can you do the roll call, please?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start with Commissioner Ghetto.
I'm here online.
Oh, okay. Mr. Frey.
Present.
Commissioner Stenninger. Commissioner Gale. Commissioner Perez.
Here.
Ms. Boland. Mr. Wagonseller. Commissioner Plaskett.
Here.
Mr. Etchegary. Mr. Gallagher. Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Edgar.
Present online.
Commissioner Price. Commissioner Roos. Mr. Nixon. Mr. Dean. Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Chair Easley.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Gottschalk.
I'm here online.
Mr. Mancebo. Ms. Hudson. Commissioner Vogler.
Commissioner Vogler is unable to attend, and this is Commissioner Carson from White Pine County.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibson. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Spross, Churchill County.
Here.
Mr. Tibbetts.
I'm online.
Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Helming. And Commissioner Robison. Ms. Boland, are you on?
Yes, I am. I
Okay,
got a
thank
little
you.
late.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a quorum.
All right. That's great. Thank you. Will you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, I just noticed Commissioner Stenninger has joined us.
Yeah, I had a little trouble, but I'm here now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're glad you're here. Item number 2 on our agenda is public comment. This board does not take action on items that are brought up under public comment until they are included on a future agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. Item 3 is the approval of the agenda. Jeff, is there anything that you think needs to be taken out of sequence? Do we need to delete anything?
No, Madam Chair, there are no changes recommended for the agenda.
And no emergency items?
No.
All right. Item 4 is an election of chairman of the CNRWA. We're doing that a little early this year because of timing on how some of the meetings are going to fall. It has been my pleasure to serve as your chair for 20 years, but I am not vested in this position. Future planning is always terrific, so if someone else has a desire to step up and volunteer as chair, I am open to that. Otherwise, are there any nominations?
I nominate Joni Eastley.
Who said that?
Strickland.
Oh, Deborah Strickland. All right. Yes, I will do this again. Is there a second to that motion?
Nancy Bolin will second.
Second by Commissioner Boland. Questions concerning the motion? Any comments? Is there any opposition to that motion? With no opposition, that motion passes. No parole for Eastley. Item 5 is the election of vice chairman of CNRWA. Your current vice chair is Norm Frey with Churchill County. He's also served in that position for many years, and I'm proud to say that he is one of the co-founders, along with me, of this organization. The floor is open for nominations for vice chair.
And I too, Joni, will say that I'm not vested in this.
Your mic's off.
Who turned it off? Anyway, I can't even operate a mic, so, but anyway, I am not vested in this job either, and I think it would be very good to have some of the people that have a great interest in the Central Nevada Hydrogeographic Basin to step up and be part of the management. I really believe that we need to look at some succession planning and all.
No argument.
So anyway, I would serve if forced.
The floor is open for nominations. Is there a motion?
I'll nominate Norm Frey.
Chris Wagenseller has made a motion to nominate Norm. Is there a second to Chris's motion?
I second it.
Commissioner Fred Perez, and your mic is off, Fred. Commissioner Fred Perez from Esmeralda County has seconded that motion. Are there any questions concerning the motion? Any comments? Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, that motion passes. No parole for you, Norm. Item 6, we'll move to the consent agenda. There are 7 items on consent. I trust that everyone has had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Is there an item that anyone would like to have removed for discussion? Is there a motion on consent?
Motion to approve Strickland.
Thank you. Commissioner Strickland moves to approve. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Chris Wagenseller. Questions concerning the motion? Any comments? Is there any opposition to that motion? With no opposition, that motion passes, and that is the end of consent. Moving to item number 7. This is possible action to consider requests from the CNRWA board members to reimburse travel if they attend the 2026 Nevada Water Resources Annual Conference. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So under consent agenda, you approved an item to pay for the registration fee for one board member from each member county to attend the Nevada Water Resources Association, annual conference this year that is being held in Las Vegas. And for those of you who are new to the board or may not remember this, we've been doing this, or CNRWA has been reimbursing or paying for the registration fee for one board member for a number of years now. And the Nevada Water Resources Association annual conferences alternate between Las Vegas and Reno this year, coming year, I should say. In 2026, it will be in Las Vegas. We have had a number of board members take advantage of that opportunity, but not all 9 or 10 member counties. I think our highest attendance under this program from CNRWA has probably been 4. And I think that for some counties, or at least I've heard from some counties, that while they appreciate CNRWA paying for the registration fee, there are still travel costs associated with attending these conferences that either their county is not able to pay for, or they just, they're don't want to pay for it or can't pay for it out of pocket as well. And so what I had asked the chair about is putting an item on the agenda to consider for those members, board members from counties that are unable to pay for their travel expenses, to consider CNRWA board reimbursing those travel expenses in addition to paying for the registration fees for those directors from those counties. And we could either bring it back at the next meeting, or at least at this point, if you want to approve this item, establish some funding level for that, so that at our next meeting, which will likely be in early January, I'm thinking, then if there is a board member who wants to attend but can't afford to pay for the travel expenses, they can come to the board and ask for some of that cost or all of the cost to travel as well.
Jeff, did you have a not to exceed amount in mind?
Well, in the Las Vegas, and I have not seen the hotel cost for this year, but in past years, so I've attended probably 5 or 6 of the NWRA conferences in Las Vegas, and they're typically held at the Tuscany. I think it's on Flamingo, and it's really reasonable. I'm thinking that last couple of years it's been, even with the taxes, and I don't think they charge resort fees or any of that stuff, it's been like $130 maybe. I don't know if that's the place it'll be held this year. I see Laurel Saito, who is on the planning committee for NWRA, and maybe she can chime in, but typically you're looking at about 2 to 3 nights lodging, and then mileage, and then the lunches and breakfasts are typically provided at the conference, so really it's meals. So I'm thinking $500 would be a pretty reasonable amount to cover those costs.
So how many,
You got Laurel on.
Yeah, Jeff,
sorry, go
rate
ahead,
is-
Laurel.
Yeah, the rate is $89 per night, Monday through Thursday. It's $199 on Saturday and Sunday. But, the conference itself goes from Tuesday afternoon to Thursday. So, they have a special rate of $89 per night, Monday through Thursday.
Paige Brooks, do you have dates for that?
It is February 3rd through 5th.
Thank you.
Yes, Chris.
Does that rate waive?
Could you pull your mic closer? We want to make sure Sam is able to hear you.
Does that rate waive the resort fees, or is that added to it?
That I can't answer. I thought the resort fees were set by ordinance and everybody paid them, but I don't know.
Because I know in Las Vegas, some are 40, some are 60. Some of the resort fees are more than the cost of the night at the hotel.
Yeah, I know.
I know DRI, we were able to get a group rate, and they waived resort fees. I don't know if they could do that.
Yes, the resort fees are being waived. As long as you register through the website on the NWRA conference website, I'll put that in the chat, or you call the hotel directly. If you go through a third party, then you won't get those rates. But I'll put the website in the chat.
Thank you.
So as long as you register through, there's a link on that website, then they will waive the $39 resort fee.
All right. Jeff just stepped away for a few seconds, so. Jeff, we've discussed this and you've obviously thought about it. Do you have a recommendation for how many, let's call them scholarships, how many scholarships to offer?
I think, first of all, I certainly something that we can cover in our budget under contingencies. I think maybe $2,000, if we set aside $2,000, that would cover 4. But, you know, it could be more, it could be less.
I was thinking 2,500, first come, first served. Because I think we can absorb that cost.
Okay. And I guess the other question is, I mean, is this something that is going to be open to everybody? Well, it is open to all member counties,
Yes.
but based on some hardship, if you will, or some, you know, some criteria, or is it just going to be available to
I say
anybody?
first come, first served. What does the board think?
I know
I think that's
Esmeralda
fine.
County is really tight on expenses.
Yeah, I was thinking Esmeralda, Mineral, yeah, some of the smaller counties. Someone had a comment?
Paige Brooks, I said that's probably a good start, 5 folks, you know.
Would somebody be willing to make a motion on this item, or do you think it needs more discussion? And the motion, my opinion, the motion would be to offer 5 $500 scholarships that will cover travel expenses to the NWR annual conference, first come, first served.
Motion as stated by the chair, Strickland.
Thank you, Commissioner Strickland. Is there a second to Commissioner Strickland's motion?
I'm trying to second.
Fred's microphone is arguing with him down at the base.
I
Yeah.
second that motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Perez seconds that motion. Is there any more discussion on this item or additional questions?
The only comment I guess I would make, assuming this motion passes, is the first come, first serve would have to, how do you want me to have them, have board members contact me, or how do you want to do that?
Yes. The board members who would be interested in attending and obtaining a scholarship need to contact Jeff. And Jeff, I think we need to establish a date. If it's effective immediately, or if you want to wait till January 1st, what do you want to do?
I think, to be fair for those member counties who aren't represented here today, is to maybe put this out, you know, starting November 1st or something like that.
November 1st? Okay, I'm fine with that. And you'll send a mass email?
Yes.
All right. Is there any opposition to that motion? And we have included an effective date of November 1st. Jeff will send out a mass email notifying everyone that the application period is open. Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, that motion passes. Item 8. This is a possible action to select an independent contractor to implement CNRWA's groundwater monitoring program. This is something that we've been discussing for several months. Niall Pennington, who did an outstanding job for us for years, has retired, and that leaves a vacancy for this board to fill. And what I would ask right now, we have 2 applicants. We have Chris Wagenseller, who's a member of this board and a resident of Esmeralda County, and Beck Environmental, who I see is on the phone. If you could both leave the meeting while we discuss this.
And for Beck,
She's gone.
okay, yeah, but we're going to need then, obviously, to call back in because
Okay,
there
I'll
are,
call her.
yeah, presentations, so if she can just stand by.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
yeah.
We'll let her know when they need to
Yeah.
call back in.
Hi, this is Court Brooks. I'm with Beck. I just talked with Eileen and Kayla. They're going to log back in.
Well,
Well, we'll notify you when we want you to hop back on.
Okay, how you going to phone us or email?
Yes, I have Eileen's cell phone number. I'll give her a call.
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess you want me to walk through.
Okay, there he goes. All right. Before we get into a discussion on this item, I want to make a disclosure, and that disclosure is that I have had a very close business working relationship with Eileen Christensen and Beck Environmental for approximately 20 years. I worked with her heavily when I was a Nye County Commissioner on a number of different initiatives, and I continue to work with her to a lesser extent on some things that the town of Tonopah is involved in. I receive I have no pecuniary interest in this contract. I will not be receiving any compensation for it. In an abundance of caution, I did want to disclose that I have had a business relationship with Beck Environmental for several years, many years.
I guess I should also disclose that I have worked with Beck Environmental over the course of my career, and currently I think I'm representing Lincoln County on the Brownfields Coalition. But I'm not going to be making any decisions today. I'm just on the
Yes.
staff.
Right. Right. And Jeff, I think it's also important that you touch a little bit, but just briefly, on the fact that Mr. Wagenseller is a member of this board and that you did contact the Ethics Commission about him submitting his application for consideration.
Yes, so
Chair, before we dive into that, please, if you don't mind.
No, not at all, Commissioner Strickland.
Strickland, for also a disclosure, we're working on several projects with Beck. Thank you. And there is no pecuniary interest here for myself either. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that disclosure.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Nancy Boland. I've also had a lot of relationships with BEC while I was a commissioner.
Okay, thank you for disclosing that, Nancy. Go ahead, Jeff.
okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So when this topic was first brought up in, I think it was June, when we talked about replacing Niall Pennington in his contract, and of course Niall had done this program for the previous 11 years, and I forget the name of the gentleman who, I'm sure I've got it in the records somewhere, who did it before Niall. We talked about this, and a few folks reached out to me about it, including Mr. Wagenseller, about his interest, but at that time we weren't sure how we were going to approach this as far as the qualifications, what we were looking for, and so forth. And so the first thing I did in looking for a replacement for Mr. Pennington is to talk to Mr. Pennington and to go through my records and files, but to sit down with Niall and talk to him about his experiences over the past 11 years and his recommendations, and specifically what he thought we should be looking for in either a firm or an individual to replace him. And what really stood out, and I think I knew this and sensed this, having talked to Niall over the past 7 years during his implementation of the program, was this is a number one, obviously an important program to CNRWA. It's one of the key programs that we administer. It is used by not only the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority, but by others, counties, and to some extent, I believe also the Division of Water Resources, and just, it's public data and it's useful data. And it fills a gap in the central region in terms of basins where there is really not any other agencies doing well monitoring. And it's also a program that has taken probably close to 20 years to develop. And the development includes, number one, sitting down with, at that time, the leadership at not only the Division of Water Resources, but the U.S. Geological Survey Office, Water Science Center in Carson City, and figuring out where those gaps are and figuring out which wells would be suitable and available, or accessible, I should say, and available for this monitoring program. So this program has a very long history, and quite frankly, not all of it has been codified or really documented in the sense that, you know, in any particular year, I suppose any one of those wells could just no longer be available, or just, you know, some issues that could come up with the program. What I do have, and what Niall gave to me, was his records.
Show everybody the records.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Niall uses to measure water level data.
His steel tape.
It's a steel tape. So it's still kind of old school. His well log, so we have on our website the results of all of his monitoring. I have to go back and look at it, but since he began monitoring, I think it goes back to 2003 or probably even before then. So all of the well monitoring data and hydrographs and his report are on our website. But there's a lot of data and information in a binder, which includes things like well locations, because they're in pretty remote areas. There's 51 wells in, I think, 11 or 12 different hydrographic basins, everywhere from Teals Marsh in Esmeralda County up to Newark Valley and White Pine County and every place in between. So it's a rather large, as you know, the Central Region is the largest hydrographic region in the state of Nevada. Covers almost 2/3 of the land area of our state. And what I'm getting to is that this is a program that probably is as much, if not more so, dealing with a lot of travel on roads and in areas that are relatively, I wouldn't say inaccessible, but are difficult to access. And okay, do we need to? Okay, and so safety and accessibility was a key issue for Niall, and he conveyed to me a number of different experiences that he personally had while he was out there, as well as his predecessor, and getting stuck and things of that nature, having flat tires. And I know when Niall would go out every year, he has a satellite locating type of device. It's called Spot, where he would report to me on a daily basis or twice a day his locations and things of that nature. So when I started to think about how we would pursue this, I put together an RFP that included that as an important component.
I think so.
But I'll get into the RFP, actually RFQ, in just a minute. But back to the chair's comments about Mr. Wagenseller. So with regard to Mr. Wagenseller, because he is a member of this board, he's a public officer. There are statutes, Nevada revised statutes, that address public officers and their prohibition against bidding on certain contracts and things of that nature under NRS 281. I've got it in here somewhere.
That's okay, Jeff.
Okay,
You
well,
can just repeat your conversation.
Yeah, in any event. And so I tried to figure out if Mr. Wagenseller could in fact, and by the way, it was pretty clear that we should be doing an RFQ for this, because we didn't know who was out there, and we'd actually talked to a couple of folks ahead of time, but nobody really seemed interested in this contract. It's not a lot of money and a lot of work. And so I did reach out to the Commission on Ethics. I spoke to a staff person there, and I also looked at their website. They had a couple of cases with county commissioners who had asked for advanced opinions on whether or not they could bid on contracts and so forth. the staff person couldn't give me a definitive answer for obvious reasons, but said if I wanted to, we could apply or send a request for an advanced opinion from the commission. That would probably take 45 to 60 days. We didn't really have time to do that. And then I also consulted with Debbie Leonard, who, as you know, is on retainer with us for CNRWA to advise us on a number of different matters. And so we did the RFQ, I should say. That information is in your packet. We advertised in the Pahrump Valley Times and Elko Daily Free Press, put on our website. So as far as the procedures are concerned, I'm confident that we followed all the procedures. And by the way, I would also note that this is a service contract, so it's not even really necessary that we do it that way, because service contracts are not subject to bidding rules and requirements, because you're presumably selecting your service provider for your contractor for professional services based on qualifications and not on low bid. But we did it anyway, so I feel confident that we have at least fulfilled that that part of it. And so going back through,
Jeff, I want to jump in and just mention one thing. Included in the RFQ guidelines that are in your backup, there's a statement of qualifications evaluation criteria on page 2, with points assigned for different portions of the applications, and we did not provide any point system, and we're not ranking anybody, and we departed from that simply because of the fact that we only had 2 applicants. If we had had more, 3 or more, we would have provided that to you, but we only have 2.
okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So in any event, I guess to wrap this part of it up, Mr. Wagenseller is, we've determined is eligible, at least based on our understanding of the statutes and requirements and so forth, is eligible to bid on the contract, in this case, submit his statement of qualifications and accept the contract if he is selected. So that addresses the issue with Mr. Wagenseller. And by the way, as you know, he's not in the room, so that is a key provision here, is that he can't be involved in
The selection
the
process.
selection process or awarding of a contract. As to the 2 responses we did receive, let me just say that I initially had inquiries from 2 different firms, engineering, hydrology type firms, both with offices in the state of Nevada. After I had discussed the program with both of those representatives from both of those firms, they concluded that they were not going to be submitting their qualifications. They thought that, given the budget for the program, that they would not be able to do it for that amount of money. So again, we did get responses from both Mr. Wagenseller and Beck Environmental, and both Mr. Wagenseller and Beck Environmental are, in my opinion, qualified to do the work. And I did not do the ranking simply because of what Chair Easley indicated. We did not have more than 3 responses, so I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that part of it. I would say that, like anything else, in terms of these types of processes, each firm has its own strengths and some weaknesses, I guess, to that extent. But both bring, a lot to the organization, and we'll select one, I guess. And what I've asked both to do is, and I think we'll start with Beck Environmental. I've asked both to maybe do a 5-minute presentation overview of their qualifications, for this program for the board, and I guess questions are probably okay as well from the board members. Madam Chair, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I just have one administrative question, and I don't believe that it affects this process at all, but you and I had a couple of conversations about the advertising, and there was one newspaper that failed to run our ad, and we were going to ask for a refund on the money because they failed to run it when they said they would. So, but that shouldn't affect this because...
Well, it doesn't, and
Okay.
so I apologize for not communicating this to you, but in fact, it was run.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
just...
It was there.
I did
Okay.
not see it in their e-edition, but I
Nope.
did get confirmation,
It-
and it's in your packet
It's
as
all
well.
good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what do you want to do now? Call Eileen? No. No, we kicked her off. We did. That's what all that gesturing was about. Yeah, call back in, please. Thanks. Okay. I guess, Pam, we could have stuck her in the waiting room, too. I never thought of that. Yeah, that's okay. She'll call back in. Yeah, that's all right. We're just waiting for the Beck Environmental representative to call back in. No, I don't see her. I don't see Court. There's Courtney, yeah. Court?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear. We wanted to make sure somebody from Beck Environmental was on the phone. I know that Eileen is calling back in, so...
Yeah, she's working on it right now. She got blocked for some reason, so she's definitely back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pam, she wouldn't have been automatically blocked from calling back in, would she? Oh. Okay. Is it-
Hi, this
Oh,
is
there she is.
Eileen. I'm so sorry. I'm joining from courts because it won't let me back in the system.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Eileen. And it's you and Courtney?
Yes, I apologize for the
That's
in and
okay.
out.
It was
We got
confusing.
confused.
We've never done this before. It was a little confusing. So, or, I mean, we have done it before, but it's been how many years? Yeah, 7 years. Okay.
Joni, I'm here too. This is Brenda Gilbert in Reno.
Oh, Brenda. Okay. Nice to hear your voice. So Jeff, do you want to lead this off?
Good morning, Eileen. So we just went over sort of the process with the board members, and so at this time, we'd like to ask you to do a brief presentation, which is basically, just a summary, if you will, or anything else you want to add of your interest and qualifications for the contract.
Absolutely. Madam Chair and board members, my name is Eileen Christensen. I'm the principal for BEC Environmental. And for the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Court Brooks. He's our senior hydrogeologist and would be leading the charge on this project. So if the board's amenable. So Mr. Brooks.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Sorry, getting my my earphones on, my pilot gear on. So I was not able to hear what was just said. Should I start now?
Yes, please.
Okay, just a little background. We're a group of hydrogeologists and environmental scientists working here in America's driest state. So it's our job to know where the water is. And we rely on a myriad of different databases and hydrographs on an almost daily basis. We've been involved in siting and permitting some of these USGS wells that we monitor in the state already. And we're pretty excited to hopefully branch up toward your part of the state, especially in the larger hydrographic zone. The central area it's a big area and it's very dry, and it's very important that we know what's going on there. In our qualifications package that we submitted for this project, we described 3 or 4 similar monitoring projects, all of which required varying amounts of driving to parts unknown Nevada or Arizona. So this falls pretty well into our wheelhouse. Where you name the rural highway, and I've probably driven on it a time or 3. So the CNRWD has some really interesting well clusters located in 3 main parts of the state, and so can we do this work to the level and details required? Yeah, we can do that. Can we do it within the established budget? Logistically, not quite, based on our planned staffing approach anyway, and that's okay because Beck's core focus over the years has always been working in rural areas. We have projects throughout the state, and we almost never drive out to Ely or Tonopah or Winnemucca or anywhere north of Tonopah without at least having more than one task to do, and that's really how we propose to address this. We've got now the 6 wells up in Pershing County; those are off on their own. Our staff from our Ely office can certainly handle that. And then we've got the 11 in kind of the central part, and the 34 up on the east part. Now those are going to require some effort. Fortunately, we've got some work in the Ely area, and we've also got a lot of work in the Tonopah area. And so those are kind of central regions to these well clusters. And we propose to really incorporate multiple tasks when we do these ventures, because quite honestly, we've got about 20 hours of travel time figured into accomplishing all these wells just to get to them. And that would kind of kill most of the budget. So we're trying to shortcut some of the travel hours with other work and make this an efficient operation. I'm not sure if y'all had questions or other topics for me to really touch on, but I'd certainly love to field some questions from you.
I'll open the floor for questions. Board members, do you have any questions for Courtney? Anything you'd like to ask, Commissioner Frey?
Does your assessment of the work required include the 3,200 miles that it would take, that it was taking Niles to get to these wells?
Not quite. The reason being is, I assume Mr. Wagenseller, I assume he took off from probably Goldfield or Tonopah, that area. And so that would be almost a continuous loop around the state. With our 2 offices and staffing in both, staff in both places, we were able to cut out quite a few of those miles. I think on my estimate, we've got it's about a 250-mile round trip from our from our Reno office up to the Gerlach area up there in Pershing County. Now, granted, there's going to be some off-roading bits here, 10 miles here and 20 miles there, but that's a lot less than it would take to drive from, say, Wells or Elko across the state to get there and then back on back on south to Tonopah, which is probably, if I were doing it on my own, I'd probably do it that way. I imagine Mr. Wagonseller did something similar or did a couple of trips. But by having our locations in two different places, we're able to do a little bit less backtracking. The 34 wells along the eastern boundary of the state, those are really going to be the bulk of the effort. Those 11 wells in the Tonopah Goldfield area, those are about equidistant from either the Las Vegas or the Reno office, and we can handle them from either one. But like I said, it would cut into those 3,200 miles that I think was used in a single loop versus what we're proposing.
Courtney, this is Joni Eastley. Did I hear you say that you have an office in Ely?
No, that was a misspeak. I apologize.
Oh.
I meant to say Reno.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you have offices in Reno and Las Vegas.
Correct.
All right. And one of the very first things you said at the beginning of your presentation was that the $15,000 in funding that we had set aside was not going to be enough to cover the work that you had to do?
It almost does. We come up about $2,500 over in our estimate, and our estimate does not factor in the cost savings on travel and time that we would share with other budgets for other projects.
But you would be, the point being, you would be willing to absorb that cost and not come back to this board and ask for an augmentation of the contract?
Oh, no, I hate change orders. Those are no fun for anybody involved.
We don't like them either.
But no, what I'm saying is if we were to just do this project on its own, we would not be able to come in under budget. But we're going to break this project down into 3 zones with 3 or 4 other projects that we're able to offset some of the travel time. For instance, next week, I'm going to be traveling up to Ely to do some work there. And, if you were to authorize us to start on the 1st, we'd probably continue on up to Elko. And suddenly we'd have 3 hours of time that we wouldn't bill to this project. So we can't do it in the 15,000. It just is going to require us to be very efficient and coordinate the logistics of our other project work to coincide so that we, I grew up on a farm. We didn't drive to town to go get ice cream. We went to town to get to the bank and go to the grocery store and then maybe fuel up the car. You don't just do one task when you do all that driving. And that's how we've been able to manage these rural projects throughout our career or throughout our history, is just by being efficient and saying, hey, who's here and who's here, who's closest to there. And
if I understand correctly, you're going to for lack of a better word, fit this work in for CNRWA with other standing contracts that you have right now. Is the fact that we need our work to be performed between August and October going to be much of an obstacle for you?
No, it provides a nice target, certainly. But, we don't have work that's specifically designated for August through October. But it doesn't preclude us from doing the work in August through October. So it gives us a target to shoot for, and it helps us with our annual planning, because not all of our work is just spontaneous, hey, let's drive up to Goldfield and look at the little Barth house. Well,
And you've had an opportunity to read the entire RFQ document that was provided, and you have no questions about that and no problems with what we're requiring?
We're a little concerned that we don't know the specific details of how to access every well, but we understand that that's one of the commissioners there.
We have a bag of maps for you.
Yeah. And we're gonna, we've got our GIS experts here in the office. They're gonna talk us through the most efficient routes to go, and hopefully it doesn't involve too much backtracking. Clearly, it will to some degree, but we're prepared for that.
All right, thank you very much. Board, any questions? Jeff, any final comments?
No, thank you very much. And as the chair indicated, we literally have a bag full of maps, and in our logbook.
That wasn't an exaggeration.
In the logbook, there are USGS quad maps with little arrows and things pointing to them. I know that you had asked if we had it on a KMZ file. We don't.
But that brings up a great question. Would you have the capability of converting any of the documents to a KMZ file?
Well, yeah, we've actually kind of started that. Some of the wells and the hydrographs that we reviewed for this project had some coordinates on them, and so we were able to find some of them, and some of them, well, maybe this isn't quite where we're looking because we don't see anything from the air, but we've started plotting those out to try and come up with the most efficient routes. And certainly we don't like getting lost out in the wilds. Oops, we're on the wrong side of the mountain. You've got half a day's drive to figure it out.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it good for anybody.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board, any questions?
Thank you.
Do we want them to step away?
That's up to them. I mean, it would be just as a matter of courtesy, but they don't have to. They're not required to.
Okay.
We will step away now, if that's
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go get Chris.
Okay. Jeff's stepping outside, and he's going to grab Mr. Wagonseller. Okay. Just for your information, item number 9 is a possible action to award the contract. So that'll be a companion piece to number 8. He's coming? Is he coming?
Doesn't matter.
Hi, Chris.
You want to come up here and?
No, he's got a microphone right there. Or I guess you could go here. Wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
As long as you have a microphone. Yeah, you could walk around with your mic. You want to turn on your mic and draw it nice and close. All right. Your mic's off.
There we go.
They're really touchy. Chris, what we would like you to do is take about 5 minutes to introduce yourself and talk about your background and what you believe that you can bring to this process for us.
Okay. I'll walk around. Too much coffee.
Your mic's off.
There we go. Good morning, fellow directors. I've had the pleasure of serving with you for the past 6 years, and as a current member, I have to recuse myself from any deliberations, decisions, or voting related to the groundwater monitoring contract. Shortly after college, I became a guardian ad litem, which today is referred to as a court-appointed special advocate, and representing, protecting, and advocating for abused and neglected kids' best interests in court. In my first court case, I lost, and I had to go back and tell the kid that instead of going home as expected, that he would need to remain in his group home for the next 6 months until the next hearing. He was devastated. And I realized I failed him because I was unprepared for court. The tears in his eyes and look in his face haunts me when I think about that. I learned a valuable lesson that day, that planning, preparation are key for me to succeed in my life's endeavors. That's what allowed me to safely kayak solo in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, for 9 months without accident or injury. It's what allowed me to never lose another case as a guardian ad litem. And later on, Judge Mattson used one of my court reports as an example to train new guardian ad litems. More recently, I did environmental inspections for a refinery in Washington State, which included water sampling and testing, to make sure no contaminated water flows into Puget Sound. And since then, I've been an environmental monitor for Desert Research Institute, which is more air sampling and testing than water. And I've also currently am monitoring and managing the county's water rights, making sure all our water rights are up to date, updating everything, because we got proof of completions going back to 2002 that gone on for 23 years without certificates, so I'm trying to update all that. Been working with Gold Point Water. Their water was shut off a year ago, no water. And one of the things I recently noticed that everyone else, including the attorneys and everyone else missed, was they shut off water to the fire department. And I was able to use that to bring in county resources to help the Gold Point Users Association so that they can hire attorneys and try to get water. So as a director, I am available to other directors and their counties they represent for if they have information or questions or concerns about the groundwater monitoring program. I have no allegiance to third parties. I can answer directly with them if they have questions. I don't have to run it up the chain of command and get permission or how to answer a question. And for accountability, Jeff Fontaine would know in real time when I'm at a well, and he would know when I'm leaving to go to the next well. And so the board, Jeff, can monitor my progress as I'm moving around, so you know if there's problems coming up, you know early on. All I can say is while serving on this board for the past 6 years and being out in the field with Nile, I fully understand what this board expects from the groundwater monitoring program. I have the drive, the qualifications, and the ability to successfully complete the skills and the tasks that are required, and I will fully meet those expectations. As I promised that boy after I lost his case, I promised him I would do everything possible not to lose his case again, to help him, and I can tell the board that I will do the same for you. I will fully meet your expectations. I welcome and appreciate your vote of confidence. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Chris? Jeff, do you have anything? And I just want to clarify, Chris, you have read all of the requirements in the RFQ, and you have no problem with meeting any of them. The 3,200 miles annually that you'll have to drive, well, it might be less for you because I think, who knows, Nile was starting from Carson City, you'd be starting from Goldfield. Yeah. No problems with that? You understand the RFQ and everything that is required?
Yes, I reviewed that, and that's not a problem.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I guess I do have one question for Mr. Wagenseller. We talked about this. I sent you a copy of the ethics statutes, NRS 281. You agree, I mean, obviously you're here, so you agree that you are able to accept a contract if awarded?
Yes. Are you referring to DRI?
Well, DRI and,
Yeah.
and in this position.
I got a verbal confirmation from them that it's not a conflict for them.
Okay. And not a conflict with us, obviously.
Yes, and as I said at the beginning, I would recuse myself from any discussions related to the groundwater monitoring program.
Okay.
And Chris, I'm just assuming this, but you have the technical knowledge and expertise to handle digital files and to create digital files?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Norm, anything? Okay. Directors, any questions for Chris? So, yeah, can you step out again? We're going to be in our deliberative process now.
Enjoy the photographs.
Okay, directors, I would like to open the deliberative part of this discussion. and decision to fill Niall Pennington's contract. We can have a discussion about the merits of each of the applicants, or if someone wants to forego that and make a motion, the floor is open to the pleasure of the board.
This is Chris. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
This is Chris with Churchill County. I do have a couple of questions. The contract with Mr. Wagon Seller, is that through DRI or is it directly with him?
So the contract that's being contemplated here is with this organization, CNRWA. He has a separate contract, I believe, with DRI to do some
does.
monitoring that's separate and apart from this organization.
The reason I asked the question is just the insurance requirements. I see there's $1 million and then $2 million aggregate. And is Mr. Wagon Seller able to carry that kind of insurance?
So that's actually, so he's provided me a quote. He's aware of that requirement. And that'll actually come up in the next agenda item. Regardless of who is awarded the contract, then that will be their responsibility. However, initially I thought because we're getting late into the season for actually doing monitoring this year, whether or not we would either waive or reimburse whoever selected for that cost. I believe since this is a year contract, it would still be valid through most of next year as well, so I don't think we would need to waive anything. But to answer your question, yeah, whoever's selected is gonna have to have that insurance coverage.
And Chris, that is specifically why I asked both Beck Environmental and Mr. Wagon Seller if they had read the RFQ in its entirety and they had any problems meeting any of the things that CNRWA was requiring. They both said no problems.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm usually one to wait till everyone talks, but I thought I'd come out of the gate on this. I wrote a letter of recommendation. It's in the backup. I kind of as a disclosure, I work with Chris on task force in Esmeralda County and some other things, related to water. I think I jumped in to kind of talk early to kind of set the table of what a person I think he is, and just stellar. What he gets done, his accuracy, all those things. And I never heard the story about the court case with the little kid, but that was a window for me to see why he is who he is. As it comes to the mileage, when Beck was talking about the mileage and how they're going to try to squeeze it in, it has come to my attention. Jeff had asked me, do you think he could go out in the desert and do these types of things and be safe? That's Chris's playground. His whole life, he's camped out there. He does it anyway. So it's almost the mileage that he runs would be him having fun, him doing what he loves. So in the beginning, when this came up, and Jeff brought it up in a meeting, and I turned to Chris and I said, that sounds like you. And I didn't know if he would jump for it or not.
He did.
But when he came to me for this letter, I knew it wasn't me pushing him into this. It was the fact that he asked me to write this letter was like, yeah, this guy's in. And so my recommendation would be for him. A little concerned about, right out of the gate, I respect the honesty of Beck Environmental saying, talking about the finances, and I would hate to see them come back, like Joni, like you said.
Yeah, reopen the contract and ask for an augmentation.
So anyway, I could probably go on for quite a long time. I don't think I need to, but like my letter says and what I'm saying right here, I think he's the guy for the job, and even the style that Niall had done it, and to see the antique tape measure.
And the bag of maps.
And the bag of maps, I would bet you that Chris could convert those maps over to whatever you wanted. He's that talented. But anyway, that's it. Like I said, I could go forever, but he would be my choice.
Directors, any input, any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Nancy Bolin. My only concern has been, like, if Beck takes it, this is a secondary of secondary importance to them. And
Yeah,
part of
they're gonna
the
fit us in.
accuracy-
Yeah.
Yeah, part of the accuracy of the program is that the wells get measured at about the same time each year, and if they're not working in an area or if it's inconvenient for them to go, we may lose that continuity. So that would be my only, I guess, my only concern with the whole thing. So
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. It's a valid point. Directors, any other questions? Is there a motion? Is this item going to die for lack of a motion?
I will make a motion, Norman Frey, to hire Chris Wagenseller.
To select. Yeah.
Select Chris Wagenseller to do our groundwater monitoring program as outlined in the RFQ.
And I second that motion.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Frey to award the contract to Chris Wagenseller with Esmeralda County. Well, he is an Esmeralda County resident. And the motion has been seconded by Commissioner Fred Perez. Is there any additional discussion on this item? The floor is open. Are there any questions concerning the motion? Is there any opposition to that motion? With no opposition, that motion passes and the contract has been awarded to Chris Wagon. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, you're right. We have to go to item 9. All right, so with no opposition, that motion passes, and we will move to item number 9, which is a possible. How about if we take care of this and then?
Well, we need to let at least Chris know, so, well, I guess maybe not.
No, I don't think so. I think we award the contract first. And then we let them know that a selection was made and the contract was awarded. I think. Yes?
Let me.
Anybody?
Well, hold on, let me just look at how this works here. So Chris cannot participate in
No,
awarding
he
the
can't.
contract.
No, he cannot.
But we're going to award the contract. Okay,
Yeah. Hence why
No.
I thought we would just,
okay.
yeah, because he can't participate in that either. All right, so are we clear?
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving to item 9, which is a possible action to award the contract to implement CNRWA's groundwater monitoring program and authorize Jeff Fontaine, the executive director, to sign the contract on behalf of the organization. Is there a motion on this item?
Madam Chair, if I may, just a couple comments on this.
Yeah.
So the contract template that's in your packet is basically the same boilerplate contract that we had with Mr. Pennington. And at this point, I would just recommend that we use that contract with a not-to-exceed amount of $15,000, effective for 1 year. I think I put it in here. And I don't think we're going to come anything close to utilizing that, at least, well, I don't know, it depends on how much he can get done. But as I indicated in the RFQ and to both.
Wait, that's an interesting discussion. It depends on how much he can get done. What do you mean?
Well.
Oh, because Niall hasn't done it yet?
No, Niall has not done it, so.
Oh, okay, got it.
I certainly did not contemplate, at least for this year, that whoever we selected was going to be able to accomplish the entire 51 wells, because there's a pretty sharp learning curve here in terms of just where those locations are. And now, of course, the most important factor is weather and conditions, and we certainly don't want to expect Mr. Wagenseller to go out into some of these playas or mountains, with the weather conditions being what they are. And so I think going forward, working with Mr. Wagenseller, we would probably start with those wells that have demonstrated some fluctuation over the last several years, and those are the ones that Niall has, in his presentations to this board during the past 11 years, has noted, has written up additional information and done hydrographs on those particular wells. So we're probably talking about a dozen of the 51. Those are the critical ones. The others have relatively stable groundwater levels over the years. So I thought we would start it that way, and that's why I suggested that for this particular one-year contract.
But you'll have that discussion
Yeah,
with.
yeah, and that's all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that, let's not expect all 51 wells to be monitored this calendar year, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
Paige Brooks, I can make a second.
Well, there's no motion.
Oh, I thought there was a motion.
Was
I'm
that a
sorry.
motion, Paige?
I can make that motion, absolutely, to award Chris for the
All right.
groundwater monitoring program.
Thank you. Paige Brooks has made a motion to award the groundwater monitoring contract to Chris Wagenseller. Is there a second to her motion?
Second, Norm Frey.
Second by Commissioner Frey. Questions concerning the motion or additional comments? Is there any opposition to that motion? With no opposition, that motion passes.
Well, we need to let Beck know.
Yes. Yeah.
Should we have them call back in,
Yes.
or do you just want to call Eileen? You want me to go get Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, she can either do it privately or.
Yeah. Hi, if you would like to call back in, you're more. No. Commissioner Frey stepped outside to get Chris Wagenseller, and Beck Environmental has been notified. Chris, we're very sorry to say you've been awarded the contract. Now get to work. All right? Anything you'd like to add for the record?
Thank you.
First thing you get.
You get the steel tape and the bag of maps. Don't forget the bag of maps. And the binder. That binder must weigh 40 pounds.
over that after this meeting.
Yeah, all right. Moving on to item 10, which is an update on DRI's Rural County Water Resource Planning Initiative to assist rural counties in developing and updating their water resource plans, which I think is a terrific idea. Jeff?
Madam Chair, we're going to have to postpone this item to the next meeting. Professor Lutz, who is heading up to Safford along with Daniel Safner, had planned to be here at the meeting, but had some things come up. So I just will tell you that I had a conversation with both of those folks earlier this week, and they are now currently working actively on 4 rural county
I
water.
think Nye County is one of those.
Nye County is
Yeah.
one of them, and then there's several others who are sort of in the queue, but they're really excited and to get this underway, and I think this is going to be a really great effort.
Okay, terrific. We are going to move to item number 11 then. This item is permitting power in Nevada. We are really happy to have with us this morning in chambers here Dr. Carrie Rohrmeyer, Nevada Climate and Energy Strategy Director for the Nature Conservancy, and she'll be doing a presentation for us.
Carrie, do you want to just?
Do you want to come up here?
You can stay
Oh.
there, come up there, it doesn't matter.
Whatever you want to do. You have a mic right there if you want to. It's at the base. Yeah, there you go.
Whoops, before Carrie gets started, I just want to thank her for coming to Fallon to do this presentation. This is a presentation that Carrie did for the Nevada Water Resources Association annual conference this year, 2025 in Reno. I think I caught just a little bit of it. I was either late or doing another session, but was really impressed and looked at it afterwards. And I think this is really very timely, very important for the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority. And again, thanks, Carrie, for being here.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be invited. Will I just say, like, next slide then?
Sure.
Okay. Just getting going. The work I do, I've been at the Nature Conservancy about 1.5 years now. Prior to that, I worked in geothermal renewable energy development, and prior to that, I was a professor of kind of land use planning and geography. That is my background. I very much believe in the power of local government and community participation. And so this research and this work that I do really stems from that space. So on the next slide, so what I came to realize early on is that in my work, Nevada is unique, and then it doesn't really, right now, they've just hired a new state land use planner, but our state doesn't have state level planning guidance. There's no department that serves the counties. There are a number of regional groups, and there are organizations like NACO that serve all of the counties, but there's not really a department devoted to understanding land use planning in our state. And there's so many giant issues taking place. And these tensions and consternations are the kinds of things that we can learn from one another, or the kinds of things that we seek guidance outside of our own kind of silos. And so just hearing from so many counties, of the 17 counties, because I work across the state, with how they can more fully participate in the planning process and the NEPA process about the rapid transformation for renewable energy and the clean energy supply chain. So things like mining, the transmission lines that are coming to support that movement of electrons, and then the end uses like data centers. These big projects, this industrialization is taking place. And so one of the local mechanisms is permitting, and special use permits, if you go to the next slide, are one of the tools that local counties and cities can use because NRS emboldens that to use whether or not zoning is in place to have a say in the discretionary process or have a discretionary review process. And county issues can sometimes differ from NEPA reviews. NEPA reviews often deal environmental and cultural and social constraints, but the counties have issues of things like road maintenance.
Carrie,
or-
can I stop you right there? Can everybody on the phone hear Carrie?
Yes, and see the presentation.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. So one of the tasks I had is figuring out ways that counties were using these sorts of discretionary actions to condition community benefits or condition of approvals that had a reflection of community interests, or whether they were using other discretionary actions, things like entering into voluntary development agreements and navigating that process with large industry. And of course, having these kinds of, the next slide, please, having these kinds of tools is important because while NEPA applies to federal land, in which a lot of these projects take place, we do have private land in our state, and some of these lands are being transformed into renewable energy or have power lines going through them now, or are being considered for things like data centers and other big uses that are consumptive of natural resources. And so having some sort of local government process or permitting control can be helpful in those cases. And it really isn't the goal of these permits to do environmental review, but it can be a component of the special use permit or the conditional use permit is to ask about natural resource consumption. And so the next slide, local engaged communities have shown in Nevada, not often, but have shown and demonstrated that they can halt projects. And I use the example of Black Rock or Gerlach. The community came out and strongly opposed geothermal exploration at the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners after an administrative permit had been approved for an exploration program in that area. That said, that ended up getting into a Burning Man versus Ormat Technologies versus BLM. Interesting legal matter that ultimately got settled. But it's proof that the communities, when coming together and having a voice, have a real say in the outcomes of projects. Sometimes I encounter communities that feel as if these projects are coming and can feel defeated that once they've seen the NEPA documentation, that it's almost a foregone conclusion that the project is coming to their community. And so this is the kind of work that is here to highlight that no, the power still does lie ultimately with the people who live there. And so the next slide, what I did as sort of a first step is really just take a look at 15 of the counties, recognizing that Carson City and Story County have sort of unique differences. One, they're quite small. They're comprised mostly of private land. The planning process in Story County is unique among actually the nation in how it approaches development. And so looking at the 15 others, just kind of reviewing how much public lands, how much of that land was allocated. At this time, I was very interested in the Western Solar PEIS, the Environmental Impact Statement, as solar suitable, and whether or not geothermal was present to see if that development was coming as well, and then whether or not zoning was in place, because zoning is a tool for local government, should they determine where and where not land uses are appropriate. And many of our counties do have that in place, but some of our counties, like like Esmeralda, do not in fact have zoning, and that makes them unique. And they have different resources than other places in the state, especially our metros. And I just took a review of, what permits are available in place and processed, and whether there's dedicated staff available to do that work. And this table is a culmination of that. That was kind of a first stab at the research and the thought process of my strategy for helping going forward. And I really got introduced to this because I had been participating more as an audience member and then a little bit in the process as Esmeralda County was enacting draft ordinances to develop a special use permit.
Carrie, what does the geothermal column represent?
Whether there's presence of geothermal projects or development proposals for geothermal.
Okay, got it.
And it generally falls, the central and northern half of the state has geothermal prospects, more so than the southern part of the state.
Yeah, because there's a lot of geothermal in Big Smoky Valley in Nye County, and I wondered why it says, it didn't say yes. But it's because there's no active project.
Correct.
There's some sniffing around, though.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure everywhere that there's development opportunity, there is currently exploration in our state. And just kind of identifying those places like, I think, Esmeralda, where you have a generally small population, you have a tremendous amount of federal land, and the fear being that you don't really know what's happening necessarily until a bulldozer shows up with a project, because there hasn't been enough opportunity to coordinate and contribute in a meaningful way to the NEPA process, nor is there staff dedicated time to keeping track of all of the development pressures in that place. And so a SUP process, trying to get an ordinance, brings those projects to the table. And really it's designed specifically, now I work as a technical advisor to the county in a consulting capacity. It brings to the table mining development, not exploration. It brings to the table large renewable energy development, and it includes transmission over a certain capacity voltage. So those will have to come to the county, have a pre-application meeting, pay a small, a nominal $1,000 fee, and then the county can work with its departments, specifically fire and emergency services, where there's a lot of interest in making sure there's resources that are adequate from that development growth, and work through conditions of approval. Now, one option, not saying it's an every time situation, is that a condition of approval might be something like a community benefits agreement. And so that is one additional way local government can, receive benefits from these large projects. Now, the special use permit that we are drafting through a series of task forces and stakeholders across industry, the public, the Land Use Advisory Committee, Board of County Commissioners, everyone has really participated. We meet weekly. We've been doing this the entire year. One thing we've found is that as long as developers have felt comfortable with the opportunity to instead do a voluntary development agreement, which is a much more complicated, longer process for a long-term commitment to a community, that they could be exempt from the SUP. So giving them two pathways for pursuing what they feel is the most appropriate action for their development. But now they, like I said, in a place where there was an absence of planning, now there are pathways that will soon to be adopted, and hopefully going into 2026. I understand that the renewable energy landscape has changed under this administration, but these ordinances are in place when things turn around. A lot of the developers, particularly of Eve 7, which is the large solar cluster, has still expressed interest in furthering their development. Maybe the timeline's off now, but they're still intending to build what they envision. So, but you know, there's still other counties, and you can go to the last slide really, is that there are still other counties in Nevada with different mechanisms. The special use permit might not be the right approach in some places. Eureka County, they have worked very successfully and have a history of getting community benefit through the development agreement process. Elko has a revenue tax that they put on the business license for their renewables. Humboldt County has a smart from the start policy. It's around siting and where they feel it's appropriate and where it's not. And so what I really appreciate about Nevada is it's a sort of homegrown approach to what fits. It's this mosaic of what has worked historically, and in some ways it's somewhat experimental. There isn't a one-size-fits-all category, but you know, getting there, showing up, and getting to know the people, the community, and the place sort of informs how you go forward. And that's the case with anything. So I'm really honored to do the work I do. I think there's one more slide. And these are my best practices. I would say, you know, take advantage of the ability under NRS to adopt renewable energy ordinances. Make sure there's language in your master plans, whether you have zoning or not. We will start engaging more, I think, every county with SLUPAC when they reconvene this year in the next quarter or so. And then where all eyes are kind of, Lander is going through a moratorium. Lyon County just updated their renewable energy code. Nye County had a long process in which it really thoroughly analyzed renewable energy development, has a special use permit. And of course, always just educating the development community that local government permitting is very critical to their project success. And it isn't just a federal process here in our state. And so I'm here for some questions, and I'm also really interested in your data center conversation in the next item. So thank you.
I have a question, but it's not really related to your presentation. Do you have a professional opinion on the Tui Chub?
Oh, the Tui Chub.
Sorry, I just
appreciate
peeled the
question.
lid off a gigantic dumpster full of worms.
Oh,
No,
it's a very good
No,
question.
it's not sniper fire. I'm very interested.
I appreciate the question very much. So I work for the Nature Conservancy.
Yes.
And I think that probably indicates how I feel about conservation.
Oh, yes.
I am a proponent of protecting our lands and waters on which all life depends, both
Yes.
human life and
Right.
biological diversity. The Tui chub is a species that the proposed rulemaking for the ESA Endangered Species Act was sort of thrust on our plate as soon as I started my technical services contract with the county. I will say that my role as the county, for the county's interest, is helping the county participate in the process with the agency. And that being said, that included the county manager requesting a public hearing. It included my recommendation to get an ESA attorney, somebody who has specialized knowledge in how to respond to the ESA process and make sure the written comments got in on time. That is really the degree to where the Nature Conservancy has provided services. And also, the Farm Bureau organized a community workshop in the Fish Lake Valley, and we were there. We ended up speaking, or I ended up speaking, but the goal was really that there were 70 community members that have an opinion about their water potentially being shut off, which
Forever?
was, yeah, the narrative that was put out in Inside Climate News.
Yes.
And that is very much concerning to a community. So that was their opportunity to learn more, but also give feedback. Provide 110 written comments, which I think is a really large, that showed that the community is really engaged. And I invite them to, if November 12th, with the shutdown, we've already received a letter from the Fish and Wildlife Service that might not be able to happen, that it will be postponed unless the shutdown ends. But I tell the community, because I care about humans and the livelihoods that they have, that they need to participate throughout the entire process. And from there, it'll be a year before there's a decision.
Yes.
And so, again, there are examples in Nevada of community input stopping decisions. That isn't necessarily my personal opinion, but in the work that I do and the capacity that I do, I deeply care about Nevada's communities.
Yeah.
Joni, this is Ann Carpenter. I wonder if I could circle it back.
Yeah, just hold on just a minute, Ann.
You bet,
I
thanks.
think the problem a lot of the folks on the frontier have is that the timing is always seems so convenient to when a project is attempting to be sited or opened, and all of a sudden there's an endangered species no one gave a damn about for years before that. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And it is a effective environmental tool that some organizations have
Yes.
used.
Yes, thank you. Ann Carpenter.
Hi, appreciate the presentation. I see a glaring lack of a major industry across Nevada, mining, in your list there. I see a sole, if you will, focus on renewable energy generation. A comment in that the mining industry has evolved to properly do public outreach and initiate outreach to its stakeholders. We've learned that the hard way over the years. And what we've watched the renewable energy sector, the solar sector, come in and sort of in the dark of night present their development ideas and try to get them scooted through. And then therefore you see the opposition. So my concern here is that this seems heavily weighted towards renewable energy data centers, but there's no mention of mining. Can you comment on that?
And do you want to tell everybody what your background is so they have some context for your question?
Wouldn't it be more fun not to have that?
Oh.
How about this? I very much appreciate.
No, I'll answer it. I'm
Okay.
40 years in the mineral development industry. I've been doing mineral development for major, junior, and mid-tier companies across the state, across the country, and across the world. So I come from a diversified perspective. I've also been working in the renewable energy space in that we should be co-using our brownfield site for multiple industrial developments as they are already a disturbed area, and why not try to generate more revenue for the counties within which that we live and work. So I'm very familiar with the renewable energy space. I'm familiar from a certain perspective about the opposition that's been growing in our region because of lack of outreach. And I suspect this SUP idea is a way to try to address that. But I would benefit from your viewpoint.
Yes, absolutely.
And also to round out, I work as a consultant for Pathfinder on the Liberty Hall mine, the redevelopment of the Copper Moly complex north of Tonopah.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. This presentation was specifically, the genesis of this presentation was specifically around renewable energy. In the year thus far, there's been a pretty significant change in that regulatory landscape. So at the time that Jeff saw this presentation, renewable energy was going gangbusters. Things have slowed dramatically. And so it was really focused that way. But yes, the SUP it will include, and the development agreement ordinance, and Esmeralda County is where I can kind of speak to, because that's where we're doing the work, includes mining as well. And only mining development, not mining exploration. And so that's a pretty, as I understand, the scale of operations can be quite different. I learned that in a presentation, in fact, this morning in our task force to show you. But yes, mining, and a lot of mining has engagement embedded from early inception all the way through the process. I will say that I have noticed a stark contrast in some of the renewables that oftentimes public participation seems rather limited to when NEPA requires it versus that early and often commitment to the community. And yeah, a local government permitting process is a way, even through the pre-application, to get people to the table who need to be talking as soon as that, as soon as engagement can begin. Sometimes that's well ahead of preparation of a plan of operations, plan of development.
Yeah, and I would like to add one other piece to this equation. From the mining sector, and renewables are so new that we're not even sure if these guys are required to have a reclamation permit, which is, it just shocks me if that is true, that I've been digging into that. That we have a deeply embedded federal, state, and local engagement and permitting processes. I don't think we need another layer, is my opinion. It's my own personal opinion. I'm not providing that from Pathfinder's viewpoint, because I have been a part of development agreements in almost every county that I've worked in here in the state, from a mine perspective. And even in the exploration processes, when they get quite expansive, we develop development agreements with the counties for road maintenance and other opportunities because of our impacts to some of the roads. So I'm a little skeptical about the need, and again, this is my personal but measured opinion, of another layered permitting process when we have deep and extensive federal and state permitting processes, as well as local agreements already in play that helped on the development side of that. And maybe the renewable energy developers need to take a look at that playbook instead.
Agreed. I think there's a lot of good cases historically that the development agreement has shown that large mining operations particularly have gone into long-term agreements with counties, and they have been very effective and provided a lot to the communities, but they're voluntary processes, and so it is a sort of corporate responsibility then to work with the county, whereas the special use permit would be required in the event a company or corporation didn't want to pursue a development agreement. And this is not meant to be an onerous process. It's a 60-day review and a visit to the Board of County Commission for a hearing. But I think in Esmeralda, the mindset is really just, this is a way to engage that doesn't exist today to ensure that the county does receive the things it needs from development in cases where, if you think about renewable energy, it doesn't have the same population increase long-term to a county as, say, a mine, for example, that will employ hundreds of people over decades. So it's a different scale.
I think that's the critical difference, is that the renewable energy comes in.
Yeah.
As the development, and then they bugger off. They don't really, there's no community anchor point, whereas the mines do, and therefore they are motivated to have development agreements with the towns within and the counties within which they live.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ann. And the only other thing I would say about development agreements is that they should never be negotiated to the benefit of the county at the exclusion of the local community that is going to be feeling all of the impacts. But thank you. Any other questions or comments for Carrie?
Yeah, this is Lamont Edgar in Lander County.
I'm sorry, who is this?
This is Lamont Edgar in Lander County.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I guess this is for Carrie. Will you be posting any of your contact info? Because I'm sure I'll have questions after this meeting, but, so I'm a commissioner here in Lander County, and yeah, we did approve the moratorium as on item 4 here, and I think someone brought up the, I guess, the reclamation process. I'm a gold miner. I spent 28 years in gold mining, so this renewable energy, it's new to me. But one of the things I brought up was, I'll just call it the reclamation process. And I spent a few hours with one of these companies, and they say that is part of the process. Because, you know, we've heard of companies that'll bring in solar, they'll go belly up, and we're stuck with this big load of solar panels or things like that. But that is very important. And another thing is, if Carrie, I say someone's posted her contact. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all this information.
Oh, I appreciate the
Thank
comments.
you, Commissioner. Jeff?
Yeah, I just
you
have
wanna
a
wrap up?
I guess a question or maybe
have a
question or
comment.
maybe a comment, because Carrie touched on this, and that is community benefits or development agreements, community development benefits. So my understanding is that Assembly Bill 594 was passed and signed by the governor this past legislative session. And for those folks that I worked with at NACO years ago on the renewable energy tax abatements, what this bill does, I think it includes all projects that are eligible for tax abatements, not just renewables, would have to, in good faith, negotiate community benefits. This was brought by Story County,
What was that Assembly Bill?
594. I don't know if you want to speak to that or.
Just to confirm that is my understanding as well, that it forces participation with the county, and that is a huge step forward as well. And
With the county or the local community?
I'm sorry, the local jurisdiction.
Yeah, okay.
And then also AB 70 for the abated projects, there is some money for local government to receive money to, do studies and have a more meaningful cooperating agency engagement in NEPA. So those two initiatives, those two programs are leaps forward. Understanding that the renewable energy landscape, though, on the flip side, has slowed considerably with the changes in the Department of Interior.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Jake.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I want to thank Carrie for bringing up AB 70 there at the end. I wanted to note that that was NACO worked hard on that bill. Many counties did, and it allows counties to get reimbursed up to $50,000 for their involvement in the NEPA process for a renewable facility. So that's a big step in helping counties be involved. But also as part of that, I think it's important to look at AB 70, that if a renewable project would get the partial tax abatements through the governor's office, that it takes away the ability of a county for special use permitting that could shut down a project, I guess, so to speak, or putting any moratorium on. So, that bill itself, I have it right in front of me, and so if this is again for projects that would meet the requirements for a partial tax abatement. This is word for word. It says the Board of County Commissioners shall not require or create or impose a requirement for an applicant to obtain a special use permit that would reasonably and foreseeably result in the development or operation of the facility becoming operational, impractical, or impossible. And then B, impose any moratorium that would prevent or prohibit the construction or operation of a facility or apply any such existing moratorium to the facility. So I think that's something we just need to be aware of, that ability, because a lot of this presentation talked about like Lander County's moratorium and others, that renewable energy projects that meet the standard for a partial tax abatement. Counties are now disallowed by AB 70 and putting in a moratorium.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. Jeff, anything else? Any other questions for Carrie?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, Elko County, you mentioned the business license. Is there, as a revenue source, I don't understand business licenses. Are there other requirements you can attach to a business license? For example, Nancy Boland brought up this morning exploration drilling for under 5 acres, and that wouldn't be covered in the SUP and stuff like. So if it's below the SUP, can some of that be offloaded onto a business license?
Like I said, there's a lot of there are a lot of ways to do this. It has to be kind of what's right for the county. I think the business license is in essence a added fee on the production revenue. And then the business license, most places based on the value of the business we're seeking a license. So how that calculation works out, I'm not entirely sure. But as I understood it, it was targeted to solar and wind, not including geothermal. And it was really it didn't apply to existing renewables, but that it might be a deterrent for future.
Okay.
So it was more of a tax, if you will. But the business license is something, I believe renewals are in some places annually, other places on a 3-year time frame. But it was a way to gain added revenue and maybe in ordinance be a way to dissuade future renewable interests.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Any other questions for Carrie? Carrie, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Item 12, Jeff, I think this is your item, a presentation and discussion on water usage by data centers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad Carrie is here to help me with this one as well. And so I asked to have this on the agenda because I think it's an emerging issue for Nevada and specifically for Central Nevada Regional Water Authority and its member counties as it relates to just a whole host of issues, but primarily, of course, water, which is what we're concerned about here. So I put it on the agenda. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get into a lot of detail today just because, but I had reached out to Carrie just to make sure she was had everything she needed for the meeting today, and I mentioned to her that I was going to be discussing this on the agenda, and she said, "Oh, well, it just so happens we are having a meeting tomorrow, which I think either she organized or had a big hand in organizing, to talk about this for the Truckee Meadows, for basically the entire Washoe County planning area, regional planning area, and so a lot of what I learned as a result of my listening into this, but also information that I've been sort of looking at and compiling over the last, half a year or so. Gosh darn it. So the meeting on Wednesday was called the Truckee Meadows Data Center Consortium, and it was convened by, again, a group of interested parties. I don't know, Carrie and a number of others, but it was a real eye opener for me. So I think you all know what data centers are. They're basically the buildings or the campuses that contain, the infrastructure that allows or enables all the computing that we do on our smartphones or computers, and the cloud. It's the internet. It's the cloud. It's used for e-commerce. It's streaming devices. It's used by the financial sector, banking, security, military, basically anything to do with computing. And probably now what's really driving a lot of the growth here is AI, artificial intelligence. So they're small data centers. They're co-location data centers, which as the name implies, it's company owns or rents space, I should say, from a larger data facility, And then there are these like hyperscale data centers. Think Google. These are tremendous in size, energy demand, water demand. And so what we do know is that Northern Nevada apparently is one of the top 3 fastest growing data center markets in the United States. And I think this is correct, and Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong. There are now 11 data centers operating in the state of Nevada, 11 of which are in Northern Nevada, and some on public land, some on private land. We also know that the demand for data centers is going to increase, continue to increase, as more and more of our activities rely on mobile devices and the internet. And so I thought this was an important topic for CNRWA and its member counties to learn more about and have a discussion about, because I can't say this with certainty, and I'm not predicting a trend here, but I suspect that based on sort of the discussions I'm hearing and things I'm reading about, it's going to be more and more difficult for data centers to locate in the urban areas of the state, and likely there might be some interest in moving out to the rural areas where there's probably more land that's available. Water is an issue, but in certain basins it's available. And with renewable energy in the rural areas, there's now maybe the opportunity to power some of these data centers with renewable energy. All of that is, potentially available in some of your counties. A key piece, of course, for a data center is that they need to have internet connectivity through fiber, and they need to have it have redundancy in their system. So even if you had all of those things, you had water, renewable energy, or power, land, you've got to have that fiber connection, and it has to be redundant. So, opportunities, job creation, tax revenues, potential for infrastructure development and some community investment. And there are a lot of challenges that have been identified. I think one of the things that really stood out for me is in researching all of this is that a lot of the information about data centers is proprietary. And so you don't know what you don't know until it gets to the point where all of a sudden there are concerns that are addressed about potential impacts. And these are some of the things that were discussed at the consortium on Wednesday and things that I've been reading about. And I'm going to start with maybe one of the sort of overriding things, and that is the cost benefit of a data center in your county, for example. There's going to be an infrastructure, there's going to be an investment for the infrastructure, but data centers, after they're constructed, don't have a lot of jobs. And at least permanent jobs to
It's like solar energy.
to operate them.
Yeah.
The other thing to consider in data centers is they are eligible for tax abatements in Nevada, and they're pretty good, I should say good, or significant partial tax abatements. But nonetheless, I know that when the state looks at an tax abatement for a data center or a renewable energy project, they have to do a cost analysis. And I think I heard a figure of sort of an average figure of $1 in abated taxes returns $2.50 on average for a data center over the long haul. Certainly stress on the energy supply. Some of the figures, it's hard to really understand exactly what's happening, but I'll just leave it at this. There's no way that NV Energy and the grid in Nevada is going to be able to meet the demand, future demand of what's being proposed. So I saw a figure that NV Energy's peak demand is around 9,000 megawatts. And so in addition to the 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts already committed, they've received requests for something between 21 and 22,000 additional megawatts of power for data centers. That's a tremendous demand increase. And as you can imagine, NV Energy is not there yet. I think They're probably relying in part or mostly on Greenlink, which is also still has its challenges and is going to be a long ways off before it's put into service. But nonetheless, NV Energy is obligated to serve those demands, and they are preparing to do so in the future. And so, energy demand is a huge issue. The other concern that I heard, and I hadn't really considered this until this was brought up at the consortium on Wednesday, is how is that financed? And the concern for investor-owned utilities, at least, is that it gets spread out over the rate base. So if you're an existing NV Energy customer, and all of a sudden NV Energy has to make this huge investment to serve these data centers or any other large user or demand that has a large demand for power, whose responsibility is it to pay for that infrastructure development? And that was a pretty big topic of conversation from the meeting on Wednesday. And look, I'm not here to say that data centers are good or bad. Obviously, they're here. There are going to be more of them, and I liked one of the comments that was made at the meeting on Wednesday, the consortium on Wednesday, about it's kind of like cars. No one's talking about banning cars, and no one's talking about banning data centers, but there needs to be some management of all of this and making sure that the impacts of what's going on here are going to be mitigated. So to the point of water, I'm sure you all know that water is used for evaporative cooling in Nevada because it's dry. The climate is suitable for that. And so as you can imagine also, probably data centers, just this giant room of server racks with processors, and it consumes a lot of water and energy. And so the conventional way of cooling data centers is with evaporative cooling. They need to do that. They need to get the heat out of there so it doesn't destroy equipment. And so evaporative cooling is the conventional way of cooling data centers. However, there has been a lot of interest in doing more different types of cooling, including air cooling. And what's important to understand about air cooling is that the reason that water is used for cooling is because it requires less energy. When you use air cooling, it requires more energy. So you've got this sort of conundrum, how do we cool these things? One is has more consumptive water use, the other has more energy demand. The other part of this that I was able to find in discussions and research is that in addition to the water that's used to actually do cooling, if that's how it's cooled, there's also water that's used to produce the energy in some cases to actually power these systems. So, and that includes in renewables. So solar, not so much. Geothermal, maybe a little bit more. If you're talking about, other types of renewables and even natural gas, there is water used in the production of that energy as well. So it's sort of an indirect impact on water resources as well. And I've read where there are folks who are concerned about data centers not having either the energy or water to support data centers. And so a lot of this impact could end up in the rural areas because that's where the renewable energy is mostly being developed. So another consideration. In Southern Nevada, there are some data centers that are in operation, but you probably all know that evaporative cooling has effectively been banned in Southern Nevada, or at least in the Southern Nevada Water Authority service area. So not likely to see any new water-cooled data centers in Southern Nevada. And in Northern Nevada, I think the estimate that was discussed at the consortium on Wednesday is that annual data center cooling demand, depending upon the number of data centers and the size of those, could be between 4,500 and 36,000 acre feet annually of water. There is a lot of discussion, or at least there was at the consortium on Wednesday, about how this can be managed, at least for the Truckee Meadows. And I think there were some folks from outside of the Truckee Meadows, I think in Story County and a couple of other areas, sort of talking about how all this could work. Some great suggestions. I don't think there was anything necessarily decided at that consortium, but it's certainly something that people are considering. There's new technology, as I mentioned. There's this thing called chip level cooling, which you're actually doing a closed loop system where you're routing water through the actual components, and then it's goes through chillers and those kinds of things. So it's more closed loop, so it's less evaporative and less consumptive use. And there seems to be at least an acknowledgement, from what I can understand or have heard, from some of the large data center operators and developers, that water and energy, is going to be a key issue, and they need to pay attention to that. So I think that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not here to tell you that data centers are good or bad for the state of Nevada or for your county. Just wanted to just letting everybody know what's going on. And Carrie, I would certainly invite you to correct me or correct anything I've said, or add your own comments, since you were heavily involved in this.
Thank you, Jeff. I was a co-organizer of the consortium. I'm a planning commissioner for the city of Reno and for the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, and the work sort of stems from that. I was starting to receive applications, CUP applications for data centers, and the first one that came across the desk was 30 megawatts, and I said, wow, that's as much power as a geothermal power plant produces. And then the second one came in, and it was less power, but it consumed as much as 4 golf courses in water. And so it was sort of, like you said, raising a flag of, well, how do we review projects like this? There's really no other land use that is consuming natural resources at this scale at this time. And without some regulations, or at least discussions around what kinds of regulations could be in place, it's very hard to make decisions, because water is the most valuable resource we have. We can make energy, and that can be contentious, and ways we do it, and places we do it, but we can't make water. And so just to give you a sense, the technology is changing so quickly, it's hard to really know, but next year there's going to be a leap in the NVIDIA chip, which it was presented to as going to take only liquid-cooled systems. The air-cooled systems can't even address its heat capacity, its heat output. And that the generative AI is really what's the power. It's not just us using the internet or using our phones as much as the AI piece. And just texting, the AI might say to you, thank you. That thank you message is equivalent to 1 shot glass of water. So it's tremendous in its need for resources. And so again, just, hey, we need to be educating ourselves and making sound decisions. Thank you, Jeff.
Well said. Thank you.
I have a question.
Who was that on the phone?
This is Lamont Edgar, again in Lander County.
Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
Jeff or Carrie could answer this, and maybe Jeff, with the information you just received as far as the cooling of these energy centers, or data centers, I'm sorry. I think you said the closed level cooling was something that's maybe available. So I guess what I'm asking is, instead of just having an open-ended amount of water coming in, is there any synergy with this heat that's created from these data centers that was talked about, maybe using this heat for something else? Or is every drop that comes in these data centers right now, that is all evaporated?
I'll take a whack at this if it's helpful. So data centers come in a lot of architectural typologies. You have some that are exclusively evaporative cooled. Not going to lie, those are the cheap ones. But there are air-cooled facility options. So more refrigeration does require more energy. There are closed-loop systems that use liquid, where you sort of fill up the pool once and then circulate the liquid. And there's also other coolants, not just water, but you circulate that through many times over. And then they need nominal additions of water annually. So there are a lot of different flavors of how the data center can be designed. The big hyperscalers, you know, they use a tremendous 2 gigawatts of energy. Many of them in Story County run on reclaimed water or effluent. But I'll tell you that the big companies have sustainability guidelines that they have to meet for their investors. So many of them run on 100% clean energy, for example. Some of these smaller boutique, what we're seeing is a lot of sort of spec developers, these co-located 30 megawatts that might be in your communities. They're not the giant facilities. They're the ones that come in every style. And you have certain developers who are not willing to do on-site generation or use the heat product to put back in a system for renewable energy on-site generation. Or even we saw some cool examples of, there's a data center next to a university campus and they used industrial waste heat to heat the dorms. Like, there's a lot of creative ways to make this work, but you have to have the conversations about what is acceptable in terms of what kind of data center and its technologies. The cheapest ones are maybe not the most preferable for our environment at this time, but
Or
things
the
are
most
changing.
practical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So the inlet water of these data centers, can it just be any water or is it pre-treated? I mean, can this be acidic water? Does it have a pH requirement? Or, I mean,
It
there's a
can't be
lot of
corrosive. It
okay,
cannot be
okay.
corrosive. So right now, in the northern part of the state, most of them are using potable water.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, your mic is off.
You mentioned, Jeff, you mentioned chip cooling. And so I want to piggyback on what he said, closed loop. So I had a chip cooled computer and it was closed loop, water cooled, kind of like a car radiator. You just have a radiator and a fan. Is that efficient enough for a data center?
My understanding is that it's currently being used, and I think I've got this right, that chip cooling has a nominal increase on energy consumption relative to other types of cooling. Is that correct, Carrie?
As I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Jeff or Carrie? Thank you, Jeff. That was interesting and troubling.
I just wanted to note that we're going to have a session on data centers and water at the NWRA conference in February.
And who's speaking?
It's Laurel.
Oh, Laurel. Okay, thank you. Item 13 is a review of...
This is Paige Brooks. I just wanted to say I appreciate all that information because obviously the water is an issue. And so
Yeah.
I just want to thank everyone who shared in that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Item 13 is a review of CNRWA's water policy statements, and we might take action this morning to revise some existing policy statements that we have and maybe adopt new policy statements. And this is Jeff's item, and he'll be with us in just a moment. You're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as you know, the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority has, from time to time, discussed and developed and approved policy statements on various issues related to water resources, and that's probably one of the top, if not the most important function of this organization, as is stated in the interlocal agreement that created this organization 20 years ago. 20 years ago. And that is to formulate and present unified positions to relevant agencies of the state of Nevada, United States, and other governmental agencies on water and water-related issues pertaining to member counties. So these policy statements generally start at the legislative committee level, which for the last number of years has been chaired by Mr. Frey and has a number of board members on it. And they are used as a basis for CNRWA and my representation of this organization at the legislature during administrative rulemaking process, whether it be federal regulations or Nevada Division of Water Resources regulations, or even Nevada Division of Environmental Protection Agency regulations, and then even to the extent that they're considered by member counties in their local jurisdictions for ordinances, policies, and such. So really, they form the foundation for what the position of this organization is on different issues. And so just as an example, in 2023, in the 2023 legislative session, when there was a lot of discussion about a number of water-related bills, but specifically conjunctive management of water resources, this policy was held out as probably one of the better, if not best, sort of stated policy on how the state should conjunctively manage groundwater and surface water and all water resources, actually, and has really, I think, stood the test of time. And I can tell you that in the Humboldt region, they have an identical policy, and that is now a basis for how I represent HRBWA on the conjunctive management of the Humboldt region through a proposed state engineer order. So these policy statements are very well developed. They're very well thought out, and like I said, they're mostly CNRWA board members. We have some folks outside of the organization that are on the legislative committee that add that different perspective, including the Farm Bureau. Chris Mahana, who represents Churchill County, is also involved, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few other folks, but they're basically the guide for this organization. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of these policy statements. There's a couple of other sort of policy statements related to the administration of the organization, but the ones that are probably the most important are conjunctive management, interbasin transfers.
The ones in your backup.
Ones in your backup, the monitoring, mitigation, and management, 3M plans, and conservation, banking, and leasing. And what I would, I guess, recommend to the board or ask the board at this point is, we're not going to be developing any policy here in the next 45 minutes, but take a look, or if you haven't already, or if you have.
Jeff, you know what I'd like to do? What I'd like to do is take 30 seconds to talk about putting a committee together, just like we have for legislative issues. Put a committee together to review our draft policies, make recommendations for drafting new ones, and then bring something back to the board for a decision.
Yeah, I think all that work needs to be done at the committee
Offline.
level. Yeah, I guess the only comment or maybe request I would have is if there's anybody that's thinking about something that committee could consider for a policy.
That, and in terms of a committee, I hate to pile more work on them, but I particularly appreciate the input from the Legislative Committee this session, and I think that they would make a great start for a committee for reviewing our policies.
I agree, and I think we're going to be seeing some interest in getting together with stakeholders to start talking about
Yes.
some of the issues for the 2027 legislative session. But, unless anybody has any recommendations for possible new policies,
If you do, reach out to Jeff directly, or to Norm, the chairman of the Legislative Committee.
You didn't write our names down, did you?
I wrote them down in ink. I wrote all those names down in ink. Is that okay, Jeff?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Are there any comments on that item? Item 14 is a discussion and possible action regarding water rights applications filed with the Nevada State Engineer. Those are in your backup. I should probably have been pointing this out all along, but it's on under tab 11 in your backup.
Madam Chair, I didn't, well, let me just comment. In the backup, and my copy is not really very well shaded, but the highlighted applications are the ones that are in the central region. You'll notice a whole lot of applications in Basin 162, which is the Pahrump Valley. Those are basically relinquishment of water rights for development there. And also a number of applications in...
Is that the county's 2-for-1 policy? Yeah. Sometime I'd like to have a broader discussion on that and talk about why that isn't considered a takings, but go ahead.
Okay. And then in Clayton Valley, you'll see Albemarle applications, temporary applications for their operations there. There are a couple of applications that I had some questions about, and let me start here. Well, I'll start with in August, let's see here. So in applications 94658, 94659, 94660 in August, 94658 and 94659 are for new appropriations in Ruby Valley, in Elko. It's not an over-appropriated basin, but it is typically when we see an application for, large duty. In this case, it's total of over 2,000 acre feet in a basin. I just flag that because that's a large amount of water. In this case, that application was submitted, and it was sent September 23rd, so it's being noticed, and I don't know if anybody in Elko County has any information about that one. And then there was an application in White Pine County. Go back.
And Jeff, this is Rex from Elko. I got reports from June and July, but I do not have that, any information on the August one.
Okay.
I'll chase it down.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, fingers are, where did that go? Oh, these applications were filed July 1st in Steptoe Valley in White Pine County. And their applications number 94487, 94488. And the stated purpose is that the water is intended to permanently replace water currently leased from White Pine County under application 93112. And so I don't know if anybody from White Pine County is aware of these or has any information to share about those applications.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, not from White Pine County. Don't see anybody on, but I just remind the board that application 93112, that this references, we talked about it when it came up. It's never been approved. It's ready for action. And this is that large 25,000 acre foot water right White Pine County holds. There was a special designation as a preferred use for power generation under Pete Moros back in the day, and that water was supposed to be tied to that large power plant they were going to build there. And then since then, that water stayed on the books, and they've leased bits and pieces for irrigation and things over time. But that basin is greatly over appropriated, severely over appropriated. And this is looking for new water rights to continue to farm. And I don't, blame Brunson's for wanting to continue to do what they're doing by any means. But, this would be additional water. This is a new appropriation. So, I don't know, if it's something, we've taken a stance quite a bit on continuing to add to the problem in basins. And then to me, this just seems to continue to add more and more water on the books when it's already greatly over appropriated.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jake. I think the RFA date on these applications is coming up, and per our policy, CNRWA's policy on protests, we wouldn't file a protest unless it was filed
By the county.
So I haven't seen any protests submitted yet, and I guess we can try to find out if there is any action that's being considered or will be taken by the county on this.
Is that all the high points? Anything?
One more. I would also mention that back in July, I was approached by Marigold Mining Company, who has an operation plan for Buffalo Valley in the central region. It's Basin 131, I think it is, about their operation there. And the initial applications are non-consumptive. They're for dewatering. But I did have some follow-up questions about the rapid infiltration basins that we're planning to use to put that water back into the aquifer. And so this past Monday, I had a meeting at Marigold's request, along with their hydrogeologist from RCI. We went over this. And here, this is a little different situation than what we typically would have with mining, large mining operations proposed, particularly on federal lands, where my experience has been mostly that when a mine is looking at developing on BLM land, they'll have to go through a NEPA process and will supply lots of information to the BLM as part of their process, including developing groundwater models and also monitoring and management mitigation plans. And also during the NEPA process, the county where the mine is would be invited to participate in the development of the NEPA documents as a cooperating agency. In this case, that's what's going on. However, unlike most other mining operations that we've looked at, they don't file their applications for water rights or even change applications until they're well into the NEPA process and have developed a model and have done a monitoring plan and have done all those things to basically satisfy BLM's concerns for their project and a record of decision. So here we have the applications that are being filed with the Division of Water Resources for non-consumptive use for dewatering, but we don't have a groundwater model or a 3M plan. And so I reached out to Pam Harrington with Lander County. We had a conversation about this, and no one seemed interested in protesting. And I told Pam we weren't going to be protesting the application, but what's the county's? Has the county been participating in the process? Do they have any concerns? And it's basically the same thing that I just described. Is we're working with Marigold and BLM on the NEPA document, but we don't have a groundwater model. We don't have a 3M plan. So I was made aware, and after talking with the county, again, they went ahead and sent an email to the Division of Water Resources, just going on record indicating that they would like to be participants in the development of a monitoring, management, and mitigation plan, if that's what the Division of Water Resources and the state engineer require, which I'm fairly certain they will. And that is provided for in statute. I think that was something that Eureka County brought to the legislature many years ago. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed that this is a little bit different than what we've dealt with. This came up in the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority as well, where, when we see an application for a large mining operation sent to the Division of Water Resources and we get 2 pages of information on a form, it's really very difficult to make an evaluation as to whether it's something that we should be concerned about or not. And then the last comment I'll make has to do with just sort of where we are on outstanding or previously filed protests. That includes protests that we file on application 92740 in Esmeralda County, in Ralston Valley, Basin 141. Protests were filed by Esmeralda County, Town of Tonopah. We supported those protests. We also filed protests in, let's see.
Do you have a status on Ioneer?
Yes, and I'm going to bring that up here in just a second. And one other protest. In Alkali Springs in Esmeralda County, and that's Green Valley Energy's application for water appropriation 93039 and 93040. Both of those are pending action by the state engineer. And then lastly, we supported Esmeralda County's protests in Fish Lake Valley 93949 through 93951 back in February of this year. We had filed protests, and I'm going to let Esmeralda County talk about the status of those.
Chris, can you do that?
Yes. So we had the sort of settlement meeting to discuss options, and so now it's sitting at between the attorneys to work out the wording on it and stuff. That's kind of we're just waiting, seeing right now.
So we're in a holding pattern.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to add to that.
Sure.
Commissioner Perez. So Jeff was involved in these deliberations, myself and Chris and our county manager, and it really seems like it was a pretty neat exercise of 2 people that were or 2 groups that were in opposition, and it seemed like I kind of wish everything could go that way. It really worked out pretty good, and like Chris said, they're at the final verbiage of putting it together, so I think it's pretty positive still.
But no felonies, battery was committed in the process and everything's good, huh? Okay. Good. Jeff, anything else on water filings, applications?
No, and not unless there's anybody on the call.
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
And I don't know, I don't see Commissioner Strickland on anymore, but
She had to go to the dentist.
okay, I see all the applications for the Angle Gold, Ashanti, all that Beatty,
Yeah, Beatty.
Bullfrog stuff, where they filed a host of diversion rate only applications for a pretty substantial amount of diversion rate. And I did see that those applications have been protested by the Nature Conservancy. But was just curious if kind of the status of those and where Nye County stood on that. And anyways,
Yeah,
so
Deborah would be a good one to ask because she's the county's representative to the county's water board. I don't have an update on that. Oh, but is Heath Miller still on the phone? No, he hung up.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, he is?
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Can you give us an update on that?
I can't give you one that's going to have any validity.
Okay, thank you.
so Madam Chair, again, I just think it's worth looking at those because it is the dewatering project. There's a small amount of consumptive use, but conflict with existing rights occurs at the pumping of water, not the consumption of water. So
Sure, yeah.
anyways, it looks to be a pretty substantial project and a lot of groundwater pumping. Not a lot of consumption again, but quite a bit of pumping. So
Yes.
and it's already caused some protests. So I just was wondering, kind of the status of it.
Thanks, Jake.
I'll check in, see if I can get some information for you, Jake.
Dan Weeks might know.
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
Okay, is that it? Any other questions for Jeff? Anything anybody wants to bring up? Then we'll move to item number 15. This is, Jeff, this is your report. Anything you need to add to what you've already presented?
Just a couple things, Madam Chair. Thing is touchy. I just want to let everybody know that the Division of Water Resources is currently starting up a rulemaking process to amend their regulations for granting extensions of time to prove proof of completion and proof of beneficial use. There was an initial meeting about a week ago to sort of talk about some of the concepts here. And this is what they're calling a triennial review of their regulations, but I think there are some interests out there that are sort of driving some of these changes based upon how this has all been working over the last several years. And in your backup, there's a page called Summary of Comments, and you can see, or I'll just read them real quick. They deal with the decision criteria on how these extensions are granted, because now the extension of time statutes and the regulations give the state engineer lots of discretion, but, based on what? There's definitely an interest in modifying the forms for both extensions of time for beneficial use and completion, proof of completion. Examples of what would constitute good faith and diligence in deciding whether or not to grant those, timelines, and then there was also process updates that were described to us that the state engineer has undertaken to help get these things processed more quickly. And then I guess, and this didn't come up in the workshop in terms of very specific things, although one of the things that they did talk about, or at least say that they had heard about, was allowing extensions beyond 5 years, recognizing conservation measures as a reason for extensions. But those would require statutory changes, and that's beyond the scope of the state engineer's office. And so where it's at is, oh, by the way, their process updates, according to the Division of Water Resources, they have 5 staff dedicated to extension of time reviews. They received 3,200 requests for extensions in 2025 with a 60-day turnaround. And They've got 350 pending EOT applications. 2 years ago, they had over 1,000. So it seems like they are making some progress, and kudos to them for that. As far as the forms are concerned, at the workshop, they really wanted to focus on whether there were any suggestions for the forms. These new forms seem to be met with lots of approval from the folks that were in that workshop. There's still time, I guess, if you see something on this form that looks like a real problem, or you have a suggestion, let me know, or you can just contact DWR directly. But I think this is a form that can be done outside of the regulatory process, but they want to make sure that they got this right. As far as the actual proposed changes, then they will be working on a draft of that, and we can expect to see some draft regulations, I think, sometime next month, and they are planning, or their schedule is, to get all of this wrapped up so they can actually submit draft language to the Legislative Council Bureau for them to review and have these regulations become permanent regulations before the cutoff period happens, because of the legislature meeting in 2027. So I think they're really moving forward and trying to get these regulations adopted as permanent regulations by the end of next year, or August of next
Do you
year,
have
I
a
guess it is.
problem with any of them?
I haven't seen anything, but I haven't seen the draft regulations either. So they are going to be doing a small business impact statement, and they will be following the NRS 233B process for adopting regulations, which means they do the small impact business statement, they have a workshop 30 days prior to considering adopting regulations, and then they have a hearing and all that sort of stuff. And so as soon as I see the draft regulations, I'll make sure to distribute those to everybody and see what you think. One thing that I really want to take a careful look at is, in the current regulations, there are some very specific criteria that the state engineer utilizes in determining whether or not to grant an extension of time. They want to take a lot, and I don't know how much of it, but a lot of that out and put it into a guidance document. I can certainly appreciate and understand why they want to do that, because the rulemaking process is very complicated and time-consuming and not very flexible if there's changes. But on the other hand, if you put something in the guidance, it's guidance. And the question came up, well, will there be an opportunity to review the guidance document? And I'm not sure we got a clear answer on that. But guidance document can be put together and implemented without the regulatory process, going through the regulatory process. So it's kind of a two-edged sword there. So that's going to be important. The other thing I would note is was a discussion, and I expect that there will be ongoing discussion about treating different water users differently. And I think it's really about municipal water usage and what requirements they need to meet in order to get an extension of time. I am personally particularly concerned in how smaller water utilities in these member counties, the 10 member counties, are going to be able to do some of this stuff, because you have to show good faith, due diligence. But for a lot of rural counties and some of those in CNRWA, you don't necessarily have, a subdivision lined up, ready to go, or, a tentative map approved. You hold water because, you're a mining community, and you don't know when the next mine's going to come in, and you need to serve provide service for new housing, or some industry wants to move into your county. You want to have a water resource available for that. So we're trying to sort of bridge that gap, and I just want to remind everybody about the water resource plans that are being worked on now. We tried to include, and I think it's in the regulations, where one of the criteria that the state engineer would consider in granting an extension of time to a community water system is whether or not that is in their water resources and need for those water resources is within that water resource management plan. So again, tying it back to planning, that's just something we're going to be very interested in looking at and how that's addressed in the future. So that's that. And then just quickly, on the legal front, just a quick update on the Baker appeal to the Ninth Circuit.
Those poor people.
So it looks like oral arguments before the Ninth Circuit will be sometime in January. As you know, Schroeder Law Offices has been representing a large group of parties, I think 11 total, in the amicus, by filing an amicus brief. CNRWA is one of the early parties to enter this amicus brief. There's a couple of other amicus briefs that were filed by the Farm Bureau, and I think Eureka County also filed its own amicus. But in any event, all the briefings have gone back and forth. Now it's time for oral arguments. As far as Schroeder Law Offices, participation in this, they are not arguing. They are not even going to the oral arguments. They will monitor what's going on. For the most part, their work is done. However, I'm not recommending that we close out the contract because there's still sort of informational work, notifications, things of that nature that we think Schroeder Law Offices could be providing. And so I was specifically asked whether or not we wanted to close out the agreement. I just took it upon myself to say no. I think it'll end up costing us, when it's split out over 11 parties, a few $100s at most. So I think it's worthwhile staying with the contract, at least until we find out what happens. With regard to the Bakers, we did receive advance notice of a Supreme Court ruling in the case of the Bakers. They were the respondents in an appeal made by the state engineer and the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to a district court order granting a petition for judicial review of the Bakers case in the 7th Judicial District Court. The appeal having to do with the state engineer doing an investigation of the Bakers' concern about them not getting their water because of what's going on with the National Park Service and Department of Interior. And the state engineer apparently did initiate an investigation, but then held that investigation in abeyance pending the outcome of this federal lawsuit, or federal appeal, I should say. Supreme Court ruled that the state engineer could do that, could not complete his investigation. And so right now there's no state action or investigation underway, and we've got this appeal in the Ninth Circuit with the Bakers. So they've given obviously lots of deference to the state engineer in this matter, and again, that he could hold an investigation into alleged violations in abeyance. There was an important Nevada Supreme Court hearing, early September, I think, on water rights in Clayton Valley. Basically a disagreement between Albemarle Corporation, who holds the majority, if not almost all of the water rights in that valley for Silver Peak, and Pure Energy, who is looking to get some water rights to do some mining in that basin, and has to do with extensions of time granted to Albemarle for putting all those 20,000 acres or so of feet, which is their full duty, placing that to beneficial use. And so oral arguments were heard. And again, This is about whether or not the state engineer has a discretion to do, to make the decision he made. So that's that, and I think that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions for Jeff? We'll move to item 16, and that is board member and executive director comments. Jeff, we'll go to you first. Do you have anything to add?
Just one last thing, and I forgot to mention, I think we've talked about this before, but this is the 20th year of the
It
Central Nevada Regional Water Authority, started by none other than Chair Joni Easley. When she was still with NACO, we have some original members still with us, Norm Frey.
Norm and Roger.
Roger Mancebo.
Who's at the eye doctor's this morning. I was just,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's see, Nancy.
Nancy.
Boland. I'm probably forgetting some folks, but I think this was really just sort of an idea that
We
Joni
started,
and
what did we start with? Five?
five counties.
We're at 10 now.
We're at 10. And over the years, my predecessors, Steve Bradhurst and others, have done a tremendous job growing this organization. Our latest member counties, Humboldt County joined a few years ago, even though they only have a small portion of the central region within their county boundaries. They felt it was important to join CNRWA to support rural counties and their protecting their water resources, and then, of course, more recently, Mineral County. So I'm really honored and very pleased at how this organization has grown over the years, the impact it's had, and the respect that it gets.
Good, because you're not going anywhere.
So I just want to, thank everyone for their support and their interest in this, and especially the founding members for 20 years, and it's a great organization.
Nobody disagrees. Board members, directors, any comments? Jeff, item 17, next meeting.
Jeff,
Oh,
it'd
sorry.
be interesting to go back and look at have a list of the accomplishments, especially for our
there have
newest
been
member
a
counties.
lot.
The list of accomplishments that this organization has had in helping communities build water plans, or at least promoting water plans for communities and things, because those are the things that'll keep our water resources in our communities, and to the water right buyout program. All of those things are just amazing that this little old organization that it's been going. My relationship with Jeff has been 20 years as well. So.
That's a great suggestion, and I will do that. I think it's, a 20-year look back at the history of CNRWA. I think that would be great. I'll put that together.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Item 18 is public comment. This is our second public comment period for this meeting. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I went down a rabbit trail. Go ahead.
I think that we probably are looking at early January of 2026.
Yeah.
And that looks fairly wide open. That could be the 9th, 16th, the 30th. So whatever suits the board.
The 9th, the 16th, or the 30th? Can we do the 9th or the 23rd? Did you say the 23rd?
No, there's something on the 23rd.
How about the 9th?
9th is fine with me.
Okay. Is everybody good with the 9th? And the reason I'm picking the 9th is because every time I have a CNRWA meeting, I have to miss my Elks Lodge meeting on Thursday night. And nobody likes that because I take the minutes. So if we could do January 9th, that would be great. Is everybody okay with the 9th of January?
Just check with Pam. She's
Same bat time, same
right.
bat channel. Are we good, Pam?
I'm fine
Okay.
with that. I possibly might be in Boise, so I'd be listening again from afar, but I think that's fine.
Okay.
If I have to get off, I will, but
All right, so our next meeting in Fallon is 10 a.m. Friday, January 9th. Anything else for the good of the order? I might get you out of here 10 minutes early. Chris, you're the newest member. We'd like to recognize you. If you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Chris Spross, I'm the new county manager for Churchill County. I've been in that position since the beginning of July, and I
maybe it's
appreciate
Harold.
all the information that was shared today. I apologize for having to step out. I have a recurring phone call at noon on Friday. But again, I want to thank everybody for welcoming me, and if there's anything I can do, please let me know.
We will. We're not bashful. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all, and on behalf of Norm and myself, thank you for the vote of confidence again this year. We are
Thank you.
adjourned. Done with public comment. Leanne, you've been really quiet this meeting.
There is so much interesting.
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, Leanna Carey, Progressive Rancher Magazine. And there was so much interesting information and in-depth information that was all new, especially about the need for the water in the Washoe area for the cooling systems, which
Data centers?
yeah, very, very troublesome to me. I just want to ask, and I'll let us go, when the look back report is done, may I please have it to run in the Progressive Rancher magazine? I think that would be just lovely.
We would insist.
Thank you.
We like to blow our own horn and wave flags, so we'd be happy to do that. Thank you. Any other general public comment? Again, we do not take action. We do not take action on items that are brought up under public comment until they've been included on a future agenda as an action item. Anything for the record? Hearing none, general public comment is closed and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.